Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James, and today we're going to be taking a look at some games I got to play against Eric Rosen. Our first game spans all the way back for 4 years. Let's go and take a look at this. Now, these are all bullet games, and well, I've got 3 games to show you today. The first one is 4 years ago, then I actually played them 3 months ago, and then a month ago. Let's see how I do. In this game, I'm going to be playing with the black pieces. So, d4, knight f6, bishop f4. I get to play against his famous London system. Pawn c5, definitely not the best move in this position. Young Jesse was not very good playing against the London system back then. Pawn e3, takes. d5, about an equal game now because of this. Knight f3, knight c6, c3. I mean, I'm sure Eric is pretty happy at this point because most of the time in the London system, you want to take back with the e-pawn so that you can make this a backwards pawn open file here. And remember, when you're playing this London system, you want to get really good control over the c5 square, which, well, Eric has done very nicely. g6, I decided to go ahead and fianchetto. Because the London system is mostly about doing a nice kingside attack, it's not a bad idea to add an extra attacker over here, or extra defender, sorry. Knight d2, bishop g7, pawn to h3, castles, and bishop to e2. Not the most aggressive line here, but white maintains a good advantage. Bishop f5, castles, queen b6 here, trying to steer the conversation away and saying, please don't attack me. Let's look over here at the queen side. Queen b3 gets played, and well, game on. Queen takes and pawn takes. Again, white is having a good advantage here. Taking back with the pawn by Eric was, of course, a good move. It opens up the rook file, and well, Eric just has a good game here. He has this backwards pawn that he can even put pressure on later on if he wants to. I went ahead and played pawn a6 here. He played b4, the best move, and rook to c8. Now, white's just getting a very good advantage here. In fact, the next few moves are probably going to be targeting this b7 pawn with this idea of knight b3 and c5. Here he comes, knight b3, knight to d7, trying to fight him. If he does want to go to this c5 square, I'll just go ahead and take. So rook e1 here, bishop c2, harassing this knight. Again, I want him to play to either one of these squares because, well, the knight's going to go there at some point anyways, and I'd rather just do it as soon as possible. Knight to d2. I'm very happy to see this move, although maybe it wasn't the best for him. Probably just playing knight to c5 was going to be good. But either way, he is still in a better position here. Rook e8, defending my backwards pawn. Bishop f1, very good bishop move right here, opening up the rook to control the e pawn. f6, and here I get a little bit too aggressive, and I play f6 to threaten pawn to e5. You can only defend for so long, at least whenever I'm playing. So here I try to get aggressive. Rook c1, attacking my bishop, bishop f5, rook back, and then of course I play e5 here, just pushing it to the limit. Yeah, okay. He goes ahead and plays bishop g3. Of course, taking would have been a very bad idea for him as, well, I got these 2 mobile pawns. And black has good chances to push for an advantage here. Although, white's not out of the game yet. So he played a much better move. He played the bishop back. I played pawn to e4. Now I'm starting to get actually a decent position here as I'm starting to start pushing him backwards. Knight h2, bishop b6. I can move out the way and start pushing up my other pawns. Knight b3 again. Again, this is probably his good idea he should have done earlier, but in bullet games, there's not much to criticize. f5, f4. This is a very nice move for him because if he hadn't played this move, I'm going to play g5, f4 myself, and well, you can see I'm just slowly starting to push him off the board here. Amazing enough, with all these moves being in, I have 36 seconds and he has 42 seconds. f4, h6, bishop to f2, bishop f6. Again, I have the same idea. I want to play g5 here and start pushing him back. Bishop e3, king f7, and again, g5 is the idea. And the reason why I play king f7 is most likely to bring the rook over here to help support this g push. g3, bishop e7, king f2, bishop d6, bishop e2, knight b6. This is pretty cool right here with all the pieces lined up. Knight f1, knight c4. The knight's looking to get to a good square. Unfortunately, this is just not a good move, as this pawn can become weak, and, well, Eric sees it right away. Takes, and knight to a5 here. Knight takes, rook takes, and now you can see that white's actually having a good game now. b5 is going to be in the air, then rook can go over to the a file, and the knight can jump to d2. Yeah, here my pawns are becoming weak, and no, Eric's just taking full advantage of it. Bishop c7, rook back, bishop d7, knight to d2. Here you see the c4 pawn becoming weak, and I can't play the b pawn up because, well, you'll just lose the a pawn over here, right? So my bishop goes to this terrible square of b5. Definitely should have played bishop e6 here, but again, at this point I have 23 seconds and he has, well, 33 seconds. Bishop b5, rook to g1, rook over, rook over, rook over. Again, we're looking at ideas about one of us playing the pawns up to the g-pawn. King e2, king e6, knight to b1, pawn g5. I finally have enough of it. I'm like, let's go ahead and push forward again. Knight a3, very nice move here. The knight now has pressure on the bishop and can take, giving the open a file later on in the game. All right, takes. Bishop d8, bad move here for me. It was best to keep the bishop on the diagonal, and actually computer is saying bishop a4 here. Maybe we can sneak in and get some checks in here. Bishop d8, the bishop's on the wrong diagonal. Knight c2, bishop h4, and a very, very strong move here by Eric. d5 check here. He wants to get his knight to this beautiful d4 square, and yeah, no, this pawn sack is actually computer recommended. Just giving away a pawn so you can get this knight to its great square. King takes, rook check, king back, knight check, king f6, bishop f2. Here the knight definitely dominates over the bishop, so, well, he just wants to trade off these bishops, and he'll just have a better game here. Trades, bishop d7, knight c2, attacking the bishop, and also maybe even rook to d6 check here. So king e6 here, knight e3, bishop b5, pawn h4, rook over, pawn over, takes, and unfortunately, this is a decent position, but due to time and position, this was not going to be the best for me. Yeah, I played king up, but at this point, knight e3 check, game over. The position is slightly better here for black. With that being said, I think white can definitely hold this pretty easily, just because the knight is so much better than this guy over here. I think the only chances I could possibly have is if I can get this in, but at this point I did flag, so first game goes to Eric Rosen. All right, here we are, game 2. This was 3 months ago, and again, another bullet game. And, well, unfortunately for him, he plays a little too fast in our game, and he just blunders a piece. Here we go. Again, I get to play against his London system. So d4, knight f6, bishop f4, pawn to d5. This is, you know, a little bit more refined Jesse. He's playing d5, which is a good way to play and a solid way to play against the London system. Pawn to e3, pawn c5. Tarash said whenever you're playing against the d4, c5 is the way to go ahead and get you an equal position. So the sooner you play it, the better you will do. Knight f3, knight c6, knight to d2, standard London system here. Bishop f5, pawn takes on c5. This is actually a really strong move here. Not many London players will know this, and they just leave it there. But d takes c5 is the best move in this position. Pawn e6, so I can try to win back the pawn. Knight d4 here, a very nice move. And here, well, I just went ahead and took on c5, saying, you know what, if you want to take on f5, you can mess up my pawn structure, but at least I get my pawn back, and I don't have to worry about it. With that said, here, unfortunately for Eric, he went ahead and pre-moved, and unfortunately, I'm not sure if he was going to d3 or to b5, but he accidentally goes to c4, and, well, free money's free money. Let's take it. And I wish I could say it was an easy game to win, being up a piece, but when you're playing against strong players, especially title players, you know, it's still a game to win here. And that's why I went ahead and chose the quote, you know, the hardest game to win is a winning position. All right, knight takes on f5, g takes on f5, or e takes f5. Castles here, castles. Queen to e2, looking at winning this c4 pawn. Queen e7, right now I'm really just interested in development and getting my pieces out. Knight takes on c4, rook to c8, pawn to c3, rook f to d8. Now that all my pieces are nice and developed, I'm ready to start pushing forward if I can. Here, h3 got played, knight e4, putting a knight to a good square. Rook c1 and pawn b5. Let's start pushing them back, boys. Pawn, knight goes to a3, and I like this move here, just pawn to a6. You could push right away, but this restrains the knight and stops it from moving. Obviously, just looking at this now, maybe I should just take here, right? Yeah, I like this a6 move here, just restraining and maintaining. Knight c2, looking to go to the d4 square, because why not? The knight's going to be really well placed there. Rook d2 here, unfortunately he misses it, and penetration begins. Rook d2, queen f3, knight e5, harassment begins. Takes, and unfortunately with taking right here, the dark squares become very weak, and you're going to see how I build up a kingside attack. Right now, the time is 38 seconds to him, and I actually have 42 seconds here. Knight to d4, pawn g6, just defending the f5 pawn, as knight d4 was putting pressure on it with the queen. And here, rook b1. There's not too much to do here, so just defending and maintaining. This is a very good strategy because, well, I can always make a mistake in this position. I can't tell you how many games I've lost in winning positions against stronger players. Here, bishop d6 got played. Simple idea with putting pressure on the checkmate square, so he has to create a weakness here. And he plays g3, and now, well, I'm ready for it, h5. Here, the idea is to play h4 and rip open this king side. All right, rook f to d1, pawn to h4, knight to e2, pawn takes, and rook takes f2, and at this point, it's just game over here. Knight takes on e4. I'm not sure if he was just trying to see if I was paying attention or not. Obviously, I wasn't. I played rook takes f3, missing a checkmate and 1 right here. I was still able to win this game, fortunately, left for me. So check, check. And then here he goes ahead and resigns. And so I got lucky in the second one because of I think it was a pre-move or maybe just a misclick. Either way, on to our last game. This is 2 of 3, and now the last game, well, unfortunately for me, does not go too well. Well, let's see how Eric is able to take me on here. Here I actually finally get the white pieces, and what do you know? White pieces were not good for me. e4, e5, knight f3, bishop c5. I think I've heard of this. Isn't this like a Stafford Gambit or something? Knight takes e5, knight c6. I think he's known for playing these kind of openings. Knight back to f3. Here I would definitely play this a little bit different. He's even, I think, shared the refutation of this opening. There's a few different ways. Knight f3 is definitely not one of them, and here he wins back the pawn pretty fast. He played d5, which I assume is the best move in the position. Takes, knight c3, queen h5, d4, and this is already blundering back the pawn. Here knight takes on d4, and I just went ahead and played bishop b2. So if I do take on d4, well, he's more than happy to trade queens, and I'll take back with the knight, and bishop takes. So that Stafford pawn was won back pretty fast at this point. I did not know a good way to play against him, and it's a little intimidating when you're playing against the guy that's made this opening famous again these days. So takes and check, knight to e7, bishop e3, just looking to make some trades here and keep the game easy. Bishop g4 here. Oh, it looks like I missed a win of a piece here. Can you see it? White to move and win. I didn't see it in the game. I played too fast, and I played bishop takes c5. But hopefully you found it. It was queen b5 check attacking the king, and also this bishop here on c5. Yeah, this is what happens when you play bullet games. All right, bishop takes, queen takes. I castled queenside here. Castles. Knight to e4 here. Harassing this queen. The idea is to put pressure on the knight over here. He went ahead and played queen h5, which I was happy to see, because now I get another nice little tactic in this game. Can you spot this one? White to move. Undefended knight. Here I found this move. Knight f6 check, g takes, queen takes. Of course, this is not really as much as winning a pawn, as it's just opening up his king and making it weak. But now I could definitely go pawn grabbing at this point. Check, king over, queen f4. Of course, taking this pawn here on f3 is not to be recommended. After bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, well, these rooks come into the game, and this open g-file does not look too appeasing. So, back to the game. Queen h6 check got played, king over, queen over. Rook to d4. I wanted to take the pawn, but of course the queen was defending. I have some nice ideas over here. I do have a +2 position. With that being said, Eric does a great job in defending this position. Queen f5, queen takes on c7. Not the best move here. I just got a little too greedy with the pawns. And, well, rook c8, queen to f4. Here, I believe a stronger move for me was probably something like queen g3. But you have to be careful here because, well, watch out, checkmate here on c2. So if you play this wrong, the game can end pretty fast. That's why I have to play queen f4 here. Again, if you play something like, I don't know, queen takes b7. Uh-oh. Queen check, king over, queen c1. And that's it. All right, well, back to the game. Queen f4 was played. Queen takes c2 check. Just holding this position. I'm guarding the c1 square with the queen. King over, bishop f5. And now the bishop's getting to a very good square here, as it's, well, on a very good diagonal here. So there's checkmate ideas all around here. I played a3 to stop any kind of back rank checkmates. Bishop g6. Queen takes f6. Again, I'm getting too greedy here and not playing the position correctly. Rook c6, queen f4. Rook to b6, rook over, takes, and rook c8. So he's just got his pieces back, and believe it or not, I feel like my king is not as safe as it could be. Knight to e5 here, probably bringing over the rook would have been best, but knight e5 was played, queen c5, and, well, he has 8 seconds, I have 10 seconds. And unfortunately, I am not fast enough for Eric Rosen. I played rook over, takes. Terrible ideas for me at this point. And rook c7, rook d4, just trying to hold, but at this point, it's all about the time here. And this endgame, although I am slightly better here, I'm not sure if this is good enough for a win. Rook c5 got played, check, and at this point, I did flag it to his 5 seconds. So he just totally annihilated me with time here. But I mean, in this kind of position, play for your advantages, definitely go for the time. Well, that's going to be it for my match versus Eric Rosen. We played 3 games. I got 1 win where he blundered, and then 2 losses. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one.